Hi, welcome to episode 9 of Limitless Stories podcast. In this episode today, we have the pleasure of having Gabe. You know Gabe, he's been here before. The usual suspect. And we have Orrett Morgan, who's joining us from BCIT. And today I'm going to let the guests take out the intro part of the pod. Gabe has been with us before, so y'all know about him. So we're going to take it to Orrett to
I
take...
also don't need an intro. If you need an intro to me, then why are you still listening to this? Nah, just kidding.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's go.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Greg, for inviting me on, and thanks, Gabe, for the invite to connect. So, as I said, my name is Orrett Morgan. I've been an educator here at BCIT for about 16 years. I teach a vocational program. Basically, students come in with no skills and they leave in 10 months with marketable skills they can work in IT. So basically, they come in, I teach critical thinking, troubleshooting, and problem solving. So I really am about teaching life skills in addition to whatever skills they need. Other than that, I just finished a master's in counseling psychology. I'm moving towards a more therapy-focused role outside of my education role. And that's been an exciting journey over the past 2 years. 2 sons, 2 teenage sons in high school, playing basketball, doing the whole thing. So been married for 20. So I got a lot going on. So yeah.
Talk to us about the podcast, Professor.
Oh yeah, I forgot to
Come on now.
Yeah, so Gabe and I have been having many conversations for years. We decided to get together and stop the nonsense and just put it on wax. We said, okay, let's start a podcast. We started the OG podcast. I think it was, earlier in the summer, and we got a few episodes in. And basically, Gabe and I always have interesting conversations about life, culture, sports, fitness, relationships. And then as we sort of built our bond, we started getting a little bit more vulnerable and open and talking about our lives in general and in a more deeper sense and having more meaningful conversation. And so we really decided that, what we needed to do, whatever it is, we wanted to capture that, put it down and just share it with other people. So the OG podcast, it's on Apple Podcasts right now. It's on Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you get your podcasts. It's raw and unfiltered, but hope you like it. And it's a work in progress. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Before I hand the mic back to Greg, I want to add that our tagline is unpacking modern masculinity.
Yes.
Because I think as we go into this phase of where a lot of mental health is more in the shifting from the peripheral to the main view, I think more than ever men need role models of what is that? One thing to be okay, it's okay to talk about your feelings, it's okay to be vulnerable, but what does that look like? And Orrett and I have had different aspects and different experiences within that same realm in order to place that onto and in order to project that and to present ourselves in a certain way. So we really wanted just to help and share and help other men also get to this space where they're able to discuss.
Beautiful. First and foremost, congrats on both of y'all for doing that, because I think as Gabe said and as Orrett also outlined, it's very important to have those spaces that allow men to come in and not necessarily just talk about their feelings, but just talk. Sometimes all you need is just a space to talk, because it's not that deep. You know what I mean? So definitely let's keep that work going. I'm definitely going to subscribe. The OG podcast, you all heard it first. They got episodes rolling. So congrats on that. Keep going, keep pushing the boundaries. And yeah, we're gonna. You touched on vulnerability and how you allow yourself to kind of talk about deep conversations. Let's go back to just Orrett the person. What you encompass as a human being. What does that look like for you in terms of mindfulness? What does mindfulness look like for you?
Well, for me, mindfulness, as I would say, is something that I really thought about as a construct, as a topic. Really started for me, I would say, 2018. I was on a very much a high in life. Things was going well. I started a tech company with my brother. Things were excellent. And I thought really I wanted to always make the most amount of money, because we're saying, rich is success. That's what it means. And then what happened was we started a company. It was great for about 10 months and then it died. And through that process, I really hit bottom, and really it was a place where I figured out who I wasn't actually, but I didn't know who I was, if that makes any sense. And that allowed me from that place to say, okay, you know what? Well, I don't want to be a CEO of a tech company. I do want to help people. I do want to coach and mentor, which I've been doing, but I was sort of broken. And so, long story short, what that means to me is that when I started to do the work and there's a fellow I read called Dr. Sean Ginwright. He does something called healing centered engagement. The mirror work is what it's called. Look in the mirror and asking yourself the hard questions. Can you answer them? Can you work? And that's when the mindfulness started, and eventually started getting into actual meditation, really getting back into the gym, focusing on my body and my fitness. All my relationships had suffered at that point: wife, kids, life, my brother, all of it. And so that part was the bottom, but the journey was allowing me to find mindfulness as something that I could actually engage with, because someone who is diagnosed with ADHD, myself, neurodiverse, there's constant distraction, and I didn't know that's what it was until I learned about myself. So anyway, long story short, mindfulness has been a process,
Right.
identifying that it was necessary, finding a place to do it, recognizing that I think it's something that I think is life skill, not just something you do to repair or fix or just try to get into. It's something I think mindfulness is something that actually allows us to get to vulnerability, because if we're not mindful of who we are and how we present ourselves in the world, I don't know how I'm going to be vulnerable. So I hope that's enough, but yeah,
Right,
that's
great.
yeah.
That's a good insight. And I think the mindfulness aspect, we have different connotations on what it means and how we perceive it as human beings and as individuals. But I think the most important thing is being mindful of what's going on in your life. And I just want to double click on a moment where you said you hit rock bottom. When you get to that point where you realize you don't want to be the CEO of a tech company, we all have big dreams and big
Mhm.
aspirations. Like when we're coming up, you're building this amazing product or service in the tech world, tech is booming, you feel like you got a valuable insight to contribute to the world. But then it gets to like rock bottom. Like, what are you thinking about yourself in that moment?
Well, you're asking me, I'm thinking about, at first, I'm like, in the beginning of the year, I'm thinking, I'm going to be rich. And then that's fantastic. And it's like, oh my God, I see all this paper. And I started making decisions that are sort of around that. And then when the bubble burst, as it were, it really was hard, because I felt like I'd reached the peak, the pinnacle. I was going to be rich. I was going to be able to look after my mom. I was going to be able to buy a house I was going to do all the things. And when that got stripped away, it took me, I would say, a couple years to really realize that, you know what? Nice things are nice. I still like nice things. This idea that success is akin to wealth and being able to make it rain or do whatever I want to do and buy anything I want to buy, that connection, I found I had to be broken. This idea of, and I won't get too political, neoliberalism, late stage capitalism, all these things are teaching us to consume, continue to buy, fill the hole that you need with stuff. And when I sort of shed a lot of that and started asking really why do I do this? Why is this important? And then really, I'll leave you with this. When I wanted to find a therapist, I couldn't find a Black male therapist. I'd worked with therapists before, white men, and they were fine. But the idea here was that, and Gabe and I talk about intersectional issues a lot, but basically they were not able to identify some of the issues that were going on. That I wasn't there because I was Black. I was there because I had needed help.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found with this therapist, they're unaware of my intersectional position, how that's relative to how I present, how that's relative to how the world perceives me, and all those things. And so when I went looking for one, I couldn't find one. That was a problem. I said, you know what? This needs to be solved. I mean, if I can't find someone who I identify with, there's got to be other men out there who can't do this. And so that was sort of the genesis of me saying, you know what? I think I can make a change. I think I can affect this particular issue. I've got skills. I got privilege. I got time. I got access. So I'm going to do the work. And that's what led me to start doing the work to take the master's in counseling psychology. You know what? I think we need more Black male therapists, more than just role models, but as, a place where if you show up and, you know what, my therapist now, she's Black and a woman, and that's excellent. And when I showed up there, I started talking. I didn't have to explain certain things to her. She walking around this body. I know she's a woman, different, but she knew some stuff right off the bat. And what I found how that was really impactful was that I was able to feel what I would call safety for the first time with another person. I didn't have to not say whiteness. I didn't have to not dance around racism. I could just talk about my reality, and she understood. And that was really, really powerful, which doubled down the feeling that, okay, I think I need to do this and be able to provide and hold this space for others.
Nice. I want to get Gabe's opinion on this in the realm of the aspect of connecting with somebody from a similar background, um, whether that's race, whether that's religion, whether that's because we have different ideologies and different things that connect us with similarities. We're all here because we love being emotionally intelligent men who are self-aware, mindful. At that point, it doesn't necessarily come to the color or the rate or the religion or whatever. It's just a mindset thing. So I'm curious for Gabe, like growing up and also doing therapy, have you ever felt a sense of, oh, I need to connect to somebody who looks or thinks like me so that they can be able to understand how my upbringing, like, because I'm always curious to get different opinions and different perspectives.
That's a great question. Before I answer though, I would like to honor you Greg, by saying that you said connect 3 times there. And I think that is a fantastic homage to 2024-2025 Rookie of the Year Dalton Connect. And every time that you say Connect, over these next however long, I'm gonna say Dalton Connect. So, in
Gabe
all
in
seriousness,
basketball.
I know,
Mm-hmm.
always.
yeah, why are there other things in the world that just doesn't make sense? But yeah, but to keep us on track, I've had less of that issue because, in all seriousness, I grew up with this like natural affinity and whatever administration you want to believe in, God, Buddha, Jewish people, et cetera, all due respect to all the religions. I was just given this ability to like really feel comfortable around anyone. So whatever the therapist was placed in front of me, I was like, I just saw them as a human. I don't know what that looked like on the other end when they were talking to me, but to me, I was just like, cool. Like I'm more about like, is this, as opposed to like, can this person relate to what I've been through? My struggles was with, is this person understanding the level of obsession and dedication I have to everything I do in order to get there? Because some of them would be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, no, like I'm willing to do more work here. Like I don't want you to just be like right about your feelings for 5 minutes and then call it a day. That's not enough work. I'm willing to like really heal myself and like get past this whatever thing we're doing. And whenever someone wasn't able to like match the intensity and the energy, that's when I knew it was time to walk away. And I've been with like 7 to 8 different therapists, and I've logged over 200 hours of therapy.
Nice. That's a good perspective too. Like understanding that the other person is here to deal with the issue, not necessarily an issue, but the content at hand is me coming with something that you're offering a solution to, or like an outlook that is different to mine, so that I can better understand myself and heal myself. Because healing comes from feeling. Like if you feel those emotions, if you feel those uncertainties, those depths that you don't typically go to if you're not mindful, then it's hard for you to heal. And I'll take it back to you, or in terms of like getting into the
One sec, Greg. And also, healing comes from within. I think a lot of people put their happiness and their healing and their journey on others. And as I've gotten to this place of life, the most important relationship I have is with myself. Every other relationship I have is a reflection of the relationship I have with myself. Please continue.
That part. Thanks for dropping that gem right there. I appreciate that. As you navigated through the space of getting into your master's as a, wanting to be a Black psychologist and getting into that journey, how's that been for you in terms of seeing a problem, seeing a need, and trying to address it from a personal perspective? How's that shaped you to understand the landscape a little bit better?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, whenever I see a need that I think I can do something about, I feel compelled to address it. I mean, when we talk, I'll mention the word privilege. People talk about privilege in lots of ways, but I tell my students, I say, there's no shame in having privileges. What are you doing with it? Right? I have the ability to see this and affect this. So I think I can, and I think I will. And so to me, that's the ultimate. If I have the ability to do something, I will. But also I learned this from my mom, was just, get up every day and do the damn thing. Like my mom went through so much as a single mom, growing up and having a single mom in the 70s and 80s and all that stuff. And she was just very much driven. She knew there would be obstacles. She knew there would be roadblocks, but she got up every single day and did it. And so for me, my feeling about wanting to always do better, always improve would be to honor the struggle and the sacrifice that my mom went through to get me to the place that I am able to. So she survived so that I'm able to thrive. And so for me, the idea that there's something that I can do, it's hard for me to not do it once I see it. I can't unsee it at that point, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And, Greg, am I able to hop in with a question for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
As you know, I'm all about a circular conversation.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Orrett mentioned privilege there. I think privilege is really important because based on, are you okay with me mentioning like where you work?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. So you work at the Apple store, right? So I think like where in order to be even going to that store, you need a lot of privilege, right? So like, do you think you currently have, what are you doing right now to address the blind spots when like someone who may not be able to, a person who doesn't have the resources to go to the Apple store, you see them on the street, you see that a person may just be coming in just to check things out. How are you, Dalton, connecting those your neurology and to get yourself in a mindful place to be like, hey, I still want to be a good human to this person when you're working?
I think that comes from something you mentioned earlier. Great question, by the way. I think that comes from something you mentioned earlier, and it boils down to what sort of relationship do you have with yourself? Funny story is, and I'll tie it to the statement I made right now. I used to work at the Apple store when I was in university as a part-timer. I used to work there as just a way to survive. And at the time, my stint during that time, I was kind of troubled with my personal life. It had a direct correlation to how I related to customers or people who showed up to the store. I had zero empathy. I had zero compassion. I'm just here to get paid and go home. I don't care about your day. I'm just here to get paid and get home. Fast forward 2 years later, when I go back in the midst of, doing other various things that I'm trying to get my life into, I am so empathetic, and the results or the metrics that we use to kind of like measure our performance are off the charts. And I was thinking about this the other day. Why is that? Like, why is that? What shifted? I shifted. The person inside me shifted. Like the body, the mind that was there in my first stint, and the body and the mind that show up to work every single day today is a different body and a different mind. And it translates to like very meaningful and engaging conversations. So when I see somebody who comes in and they can't be able to put money down for a $2,000 phone, I tell them, hey, there's monthly options. You could do this per month and you could save some money. You don't have to put that down payment one time at the beginning. And you could just see how that makes them feel from like a perspective of, he understands the economy stuff. So he understands. And just being able to connect those dots from the past version to this version, I think it's something that I'm very proud of as a growth mechanism.
Greg, I just
What
want.
was it?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I want to jump in. I say, you guys often give, well, not you guys. I say Gabe often talks in basketball terms, but he made a technical term for me. It was like the version. This version of you is different, right? And so for me, this version of me, I would always hope is a better version than the one that was a day ago, a month ago, a year ago. And I read a quote one time, and it said that if you're not cringing at something you said or did 6 months ago, you're probably not growing. Right. And I'm like, maybe I didn't say too cringy things. But what I'm saying is that I think the version of me now is constantly trying to reflect on how can I improve. And Gabe and I have talked a lot about, atomic habits and these kind of things. We really love that. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but really just I think it's the aggregation of compound games. But basically every little aggregation of marginal gains. Thanks, Gabe. But basically every little bit of improvement counts. It always does. We continually trying to build on it. And so I like you referencing the version, because this version is better than the previous version, and I'm working on the next version right now.
Mm-hmm. I also think like one of the things I say when I coach basketball, not one of the my founding pillar is process over outcomes.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to also be loving of the previous versions of yourself. Like one thing I find in social media, I love, and you know, I'm an older person now, so I still use Facebook, but then Facebook will pop up and be like all the memories like 13 years ago, like this happened, and then sometimes I'll really be like, yo, I took this picture,
Oh my
I
God.
typed this as a public status, but then it's so cool because you're like, man, I
Because
wouldn't
who
say that now.
cares, bro? Who
Yeah.
cares?
Unless it's something like totally offside, like I thankfully have not done. But then like there are certain parts that you should be like, yeah, this is awesome. Look how far we've come, and look at the memories we've created to get here. That's freaking awesome.
Right. I think what you're saying is what in counseling and therapy, we talk about what we call a strengths-based approach. We look at our strengths, we build on that. Where we're weak, we want to improve, but we look back and say, hey, you know what? I did this. This was great. I can be proud of this. And not just be like, oh, I could have been, I should have been, I would have been better. But let's try and work on our strengths, which is something that I would absolutely want to do with clients. And basically, it's what I do with students. A lot of times we address what I call negative self-talk. And the main thing that I get across students in the first few weeks is I hear them saying, oh man, I'm stupid, or I should. And we really get into the idea that if I say, this is the exercise I get them to do. If you said those words to yourself, if you said them to your friend, how do you think they'd feel if you said those words to them? And they're like, oh, actually not so good. I'm like, okay, well, it still matters that you're saying it to yourself. And so basically what I'm just trying to get them to do is not cut things out or move things away or forget about it, but understand that the language that they use to describe ourselves now, in the past, in the future, is important. Because if I describe myself as, ambitious, up and coming, I'm excited, versus, I'm, angry, upset, resentful, versus I'm stupid, but you know what? I think I got a lot going on. I've got a lot to learn, right? You know what I mean?
I got a question for both of y'all based on that, because I've always tried to kind of like decode this in a roundtable discussion. When you think of like when negative self-talk or positive affirmations, what's the connection between that and actually the doing part? Because I could wake up every day and start saying, I am wholesome, I am eternally grateful. I could spell out all these affirmations and I could just go back and turn on my PlayStation and waste my day. Them affirmations were cute on the mirror, but they didn't equate to work. So how do you feel like is there a correlation between being affirmative positively, whether positive or negative? And do you feel like negative talk can make you do negative things, or like I'm just curious.
Gabe, you want to go first?
I think Gabe's, he's on.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, cool.
You're back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, like you mentioned affirmation, and I think there is the action piece that is directly linked to that. But I think that being positive self-talk is not the source of action. So what that means to me is positive self-talk gets you in a place where you can take that action in a loving way to yourself, right? Because you have to do that freaking thing anyways. Like you wake up at 7:30, I have to go to Apple at 9, right? Regardless of what happens there, I have to go to work. Or in Orrett's case, I have to teach this class, I have to design this curriculum, whatever. This is something you have to do, but it's based on what your relationship with self. Based on that relationship with yourself, how am I going to approach this thing? Yeah.
You know what, Gabe? I'll bring it back to what Greg was saying. We've talked a little bit about this before, something called the brave space, and basically that thought and action. Because what I would like to say is that, sure, you can have negative self-talk, but are you able to act? Are you in a place where it's safe to do the thing that you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in basketball, I'll give it back. If I think that, you know what, I don't think I'm going to hit that foul shot, I promise you it's going to be harder to do it. But if you're like, you know what, I think I'm going to do my best and I'm going to show up. And if I miss it, I'm going to try it again. And so when you go there, like what's like Gabe saying, I'm going to put myself in a state that allows me to accept that affirmation as something's real. And I think that builds confidence, not false confidence. And like, okay, well, I don't want to say that I'm fantastic if I can only hit 3 out of 10, but show up and like Gabe says, I do the process. I follow the process. I practice. It tends to stack and build. But if you're constantly telling yourself you can't, you won't, you're not good enough, I think that leads to negative outcomes and negative outcomes as far as action, right? So the action is not, the self-talk is not the source of the action, but I think it's definitely relative to your outlook is relative to your output, as it were.
Yeah, I knew I asked the right people because from what I'm gaining is like, from what I'm understanding is the positive or negative pushes you to either a point where you get to the doing where you're mentally ready to do it, or you get to a point where you're mentally not ready to do it. Because I'm talking myself into doing something. Doesn't necessarily mean I'll do it, but at least I'm positioning myself to do it. And then when I talk myself like negative about myself, I'm positioning myself not to do it. So thanks for sharing those outlooks. Now today I have a concrete answer.
Or
I can share this with
even
other
if
people.
you are positioning yourself to, I guess, if you're speaking negatively about it, you're still doing it, but then you hate every second of it. I think that's the difference between someone who, if we talk about I know I don't want to go too far into basketball, but like Kobe Bryant versus Allen Iverson, right? Kobe was someone who loved practice or marketed himself to love.
We're talking about practice.
Exactly.
We're talking about
And
practice.
the other guy, as much as I love him, positioned himself, to use your words, and marketed himself as someone who didn't need it. So but then you have to, or my perspective is loving the work is such a beautiful piece. Because if you want to get to that place, if you want to climb that mountain, like that poster behind you, at some point you gotta put in the hard hours. But then what is your relationship with yourself to actually really enjoy those hard hours? Otherwise, you're just gonna show up and you're just gonna be you're gonna always be in the same place on the mountain.
Well, we're going to jump in there because Gabe, I think bring it back to what I said before is about when the doing. Where are you doing the doing? So for you as a coach, and we talked about this a lot, when young athletes do things, the word you always talking about, admonishment. I've seen how you respond to them. So if I show up, say, I'm ready to do it. I want to do it. I'm here. But then when you go and do the thing, someone tells you, no, that's not good enough. That's terrible. Do it again. Versus, you know what? I think we got something to work with here. Let's see how we can improve that. Those two statements are trying to get the person to do the same thing. But the place that we're in, the space that we're in, allows me to accept that failure is part of the process. I can make mistakes. Right. That's how it works. But I don't have to be admonished, put down, or shut down because I make mistakes. And this is where the doing and the self-talk comes into the place where we're doing the context, the action. For myself and my students, I'm like, you know what? When you get out there and work, no one's going to be out there holding your hand. However, if you practice thing, and in this space, you're free to make mistakes. There's no penalty for mistakes. It's failure is part of the process. I try and create the environment where they're safe enough to.
And Professor, we got two hands, right? One of the things that you said is no one's got to be able to hold your hand. You could be your ultimate best friend. Hold your own hand. Give yourself slap fives. Lift yourself up. That's where the self-talk comes in. Lift yourself up.
Absolutely. I say, I'm not going to be there to hold your hand, nor do you want me to.
I'm trying to teach you to
hold your own hand, right? And that's hard. That's easier said than done. When I tell my students, like right now, they show up and they get nice things. You push a button, Uber comes. You push a button, Netflix happens. You push a button, like all that. Well, when I ask them to do something that's, you got to sit there and think about it and read.
For 3 minutes.
It's hard. It's hard. I promise you, it's hard. So when I'm talking to them about this, it's usually a worldview paradigm challenging situation. I'm asking you to go slow. And what I do briefly is I actually don't have any marks in my program. I remove them. I teach for mastery. You do the best that you can do any day that you can do it. I always accept the best that you can do. And I say that if you submit what you can take ownership of, nothing more, nothing less. So I say, you know what? This fake it till you make it nonsense, I don't believe in that. Don't ever do this. Don't ever fake it. Just be real. Because if you show up somewhere and you present yourself authentically as the person you are and they don't want you, then that's not the place for you. But you may be able to come back. You may be able to prove. But right now, this place isn't for you. And so you can do the work and do whatever, but don't ever present yourself as something you're not. I know this from my own self. I did this, wanted to appear a certain way, wanted to act a certain way in service of others. And I one of the things I tell my students is, you know what? You're under no obligation to represent yourself in a way that makes others feel comfortable. Do your
Right.
best. And
Right.
that's all you can be asked to do.
I love that. I love the outlook on the stories that both of you have shared, and I think it's so important to just authentically show up. I think that's one of the biggest things, because your community will find you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a believer of that. Like, people will gravitate towards you as the different versions keep updating. You know, sometimes when you talking about tech, when you start debugging some problems in a software program or whatever, you have to remove certain things and put certain things in. And that's literally how people are. The version that you
Mm-hmm.
kind of debugged yesterday is not the same version today.
Right.
So you have to kind of like allow that version to exist as is. And you always like retool and reinvent yourself as life goes. So thanks guys for sharing that. I wanna take a step further and go into some of the relationships that we've formed in our journeys, and a big one is like you two met, of course. But Orrit, I want to give you the floor first in terms of like how you did when you did the work and you started relating to people in different. Of course, I think it's different ways because your version changed.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect the immediate people around you? So your kids, your mom, and your family. How does that affect your relationship prior to not doing that inner work?
That's a deep question. I would say at first it was hard because when you start, for example, discovering the person that you want to be, and the person that you are, and the person that you were, the person that you are is like, you know what? I don't want to be the person that I was. I want to be this over here. This is more aspirational. But in order to find that, I found that figuring out what my boundaries were, I had to learn those. I found that some of our relationships got more difficult because I'm like, you know what? Our relationship worked this way before because that's the version I was. But I'm not that person anymore. So at some point, sometimes you're like, you know what? This person, they got to go. Or we have to reevaluate our relationship if we're going to stay in a relationship because the person I am can no longer accept the things that are part of this. As far as my children goes, I would say that I grew up in a very authoritarian, do as I say, not as I do, you do or else. Very old school Catholic Caribbean background. And as I got older and realized that Rob and I talked about before, I realized that that method was not going to work for my children and is what I knew. And when it started happening, I am like, oh my God, this shit isn't working. There's no way to escalate. There's no way to continue to double down. And so as it relates to your question, I had to start to find, how do I relate to my sons in a way that's going to affirm them and it's not a projection of the upbringing that I had, because I needed to do the work to figure out how do I be different? How do I show up for my sons in a way that's going to make them thrive? And that's always ongoing. And Gabe and I have discussions about it, but just being able to just now accept that children in general are deserving of your respect from the jump. They do not have to, they don't have to earn it. They're not deserving of it because they're children. You should respect them, which means, as you said before, show up with empathy, show up authentically, ask them what they want, allow them to engage with their agency, those things. And that sounds all nice and new, but before, no one talks about that. Children do what the hell I say,
Right.
or else. Right. And so having to shed that paradigm, which is really a big part of the worldview, it was really difficult. But the more work I do in that, even I still make mistakes talking to my son because, teenagers are difficult. But I'm just saying that. Right. So just real talk. So, but even I'll give you a quick example before I move on, let Gabe jump in. Like the other day, my son, he's eating dinner. He eats like some nonsense, 3 wings. And then 20 minutes later, he's come back for a Nutella sandwich. Like, God, I'm like, dude, like, it's been like 30 minutes. You're going to eat. And he's like, why are you asking me about what I'm eating? It's nonsense. It's the stupidest thing ever, he says to me. And I'm like, okay. So we went back and forth a bit. And then overnight, I'm like, you know what? I went back to him. I said, you know what? I thought about what you said. I'm going to try and let go of my thoughts around your eating. And if I get into that again, I'd like you to say, hey, we talked about this. I thought you were going to let this go. That's going to be the cue to me. And
Mm,
so this was a piece of humility, right? I had to accept that he said something angry in a moment to me that when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, from his perspective, that's a bunch of bullshit. So how do I address and acknowledge and validate his experience and not continue to double down? Well, you just do as I say. So
right.
those are lessons that I wouldn't have been able to do. My 6 months ago version wouldn't have been able to do that thing that I did yesterday. But that's
Nice.
that.
That's growth.
That's growth. Like even to say like 6 months ago, that's
Yeah.
not that long ago.
That's
And
not that long.
No.
yeah, that's incredible. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't,
I'm
you
older
know,
than you guys. I'm like 10 years. Hold on. I'm 14 years. Who goes? Who's 35? You 35, Gabe? 35?
almost
Almost.
getting there.
Yeah, you're ancient on Facebook still. I don't even have a Facebook account. So I'm almost 50, right? So, I appreciate you guys you're in the space. Like the old adage, if I wish I knew what I knew then, I knew now. And you guys are like 10, 15 years earlier understanding this implicitly. When I was your age, I didn't know. Like, no, man, no. I was nowhere close to the level of self-awareness and understanding that you guys are. So,
I
good on you.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. It's always funny when people they say that, and it's like, bro, I feel old though. What are you talking about?
Oh, you not old.
What? Like, bro, I feel old. Like, I don't know what you mean, but I got some life in me, okay? Like, come on now. But I think there was one thing that you mentioned about like when you were when after you did the work and your version came up to be the self-aware, the self, and you with your sons. Is there any relationship, immediate or work or platonic, that you lost that you feel like could have done better there? Could have done better.
Yes. I mean, yes, there definitely are some. I would say there's some, well, high school was a long time away from me, but there are some high school friends who, nothing bad or otherwise, just the person that I was not compatible. And at some point, I realized that I think I'm maintaining relationships in a way that's designed to suit something that I no longer value. And so to me, like, you know what? Gabe and I will have regular conversation, you'll chat with me, whatever, but it's not a one-sided relationship. I'm not like, if I don't talk to Gabe or call Gabe, it's not like he's not ever going to call me. We get together. Whereas I think relationships should be reciprocal, mutual respect. We understand what it is. We understand what a relationship is, and we can actually talk about our relationship because we do. And Gabe's very open. He's like, dude, I'm not ready for that right now. You don't, I can't, So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I just respect that. Whereas before in my previous, group, friends, whatever, that conversation, oh, you know what? I'm not ready for that right now. We couldn't even say that. I can't say that to you because you may disagree. That may mean conflict. It may mean we're going to argue. And with Gabe, for example, I have no reason to think that he's attacking, thinking, or otherwise. He's just saying what his truth is. And so that is a relationship that affirms me. We have mutual respect. So my previous relationships weren't built on that because, again, different version. Didn't understand how to structure, say what I need, set clean boundaries, understand what conflict is and what it isn't. A lot of more things than that, even.
Yeah, and I would just want to draw back and appreciate everything you've said. And I think the biggest piece that I like to see from people from your cohort and above, Orrett, is like people who are actively working to heal their own stuff where they're not repeating cycles of the past. Like I'm around teachers a lot. I'm around other basketball coaches a lot. I'm around people who work with people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the amount of times I just see and hear someone just repeating generational trauma is more than I'd like to acknowledge or even accept. I just continue to, anyone who is putting in the work to not repeat what didn't work for them, but they want to almost plaster, for lack of a better word, because there's no other way that they know how, but that they know how currently.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other ways you can get to in order to administer that pedagogy. Anyone who's willing to do that work, I have so much respect for.
I think I'm gonna ask you another question, Gabe, because I don't think I asked you in the episode that you came on. How do you nurture your relationships currently as compared to your previous relationships? Because I think it's all of us have relationships that we lost, that we felt like we could have been better. Because I think it's always good to be self-aware and balanced in your approach, because we tend to, oh, it's them, but sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's us. Sometimes we got us. So we got us. I'm asking you, I'm asking you how you've dealt with relationships that you've lost and how you nurture relationships currently.
Orrett, are you okay if I share an example that you've shared with? Actually, stop me if it's not okay.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You go right ahead.
So there was
brave space.
So there was I asked Orrett about this 7 or 8 months ago. Like I was like, do I keep this person in my life because I consider that person a dosage person? So I could use this person. Not use is the wrong word. I don't use people. Let me rephrase that. I could tolerate this person in specific times, but then more than the dosage related to medicine, I would get sick. So then Orrett likened it to a previous relationship that he had where he had to write this person a letter to be like, these are my boundaries with you. And then after he handed that person the letter, the boundaries were so clear. Right? So I think like in terms of maintaining my relationships, like that's still a work in progress for me. Like, but one thing that's non-negotiable for me now is I understand my value and I don't tolerate disrespect. So I'm working on like finding that courage to be like, hey, like this is what I need from you. And if you don't need it, if you can't meet me here, then I'm out. However, I'm willing to put in that work to be like, I am this person now. I'm the version as you both like to use. And if I were to continue down this trajectory, this means these parts of me that used to hold me down and these dosage people can't exist in the same way.
I appreciate the dosage adage. Like that was really dope. That was really dope because there's a lot of relationships that feel that way. It's like a dose of medicine. It only works when you need it to work, but half the time, most of the time, you don't need it. But
we need more vitamin people in our life. The things
yeah,
you take daily and they feel good. Vitamin people.
Exactly. Hey man, the best vitamin is sunlight. We don't have enough of that.
Yes.
But anyways, my question to you both is why are we, because Gabe, you mentioned it, like if you're not willing to meet my boundaries, like I'm out. I personally think we need to have a discussion on why we're so quick in this current generation to say I'm out when boundaries are not met. Because I think there's no perfection. Even with the purest soul on earth, there has to be some level of discomfort that will arise. Why is it that I feel like the wave of relationships, work, romantic, platonic, is if you don't meet my standards, I can't tolerate this. Why is that?
Okay, am I able to hop in quick? All right.
Do it.
My answer's pretty short. I just think that in this, because you use the term in this generation, we have unlimited choice. Whereas 10 to 15 years ago, like if I don't like my romantic partner, it took me a long time. I had to muster the bravery, I had to muster the courage to ask this person to go out even on a first date with me. Now you have unlimited options to be like, you not working? Cool, I'll just swipe again. So I think the access is a lot higher. Therefore, your tolerability and your willingness to put in the work has lowered because of the increase of access. So it's not a me issue. I think it's a societal issue.
Well, I'm going to jump in on it again because I was actually going to go the technology route again because I am like in a bridge generation. So do you boys know what a rotary phone is, or have you seen one before?
Oh yeah.
Because I used one for real, like had to do it legit. And so what I'm saying is that oh man, I got 6 more numbers. Right, so that's the thing I had to do. But what I'm saying is that basically what Gabe's saying is that I've got a lot of tech that allows me to obfuscate and create a boundary that isn't there when I have.
And what does obfuscate mean?
Oh, sorry, to block or to deny or to sort of make not clear, right? So I basically, as in Gabe's analogy, if I want to break up with somebody in my generation, the old guys, Facebook generation, you'd have to talk to that person for real, or at least call them on the phone. But now it's like, BRB, and then you don't. Right? So what I'm saying is that
ghosting,
right? So part of what we've had, this thing is that we've been able to insulate ourselves in worlds, networks, boundaries, things that have changed the social dynamic and also have eroded intimacy and interpersonal communication skills. So now if I want to look at Greg and say, you know what, Greg, we're done, cut it off. But if I show up to his face and I say, Greg, I actually don't like you. That's hard, because
That's
I'm going to see
different.
his face, I'm going to see his reaction, I'm going to see all those things. And so we have sort of muted our ability to accept those physiological responses, stimulus, and be able to work through them, because it takes more than just courage. It just, as a regular human being, I want to.
And it takes skill.
Takes skill.
Right? It takes skill
Right.
to articulate what you're feeling.
No, go.
The introduction of the reaction bar, that Apple, I love Apple products, like, and I never want to stop using them.
Yeah.
But like the introduction of the reaction bar on WhatsApp and everything,
yeah,
it takes no fucking work to be like, I like this. No fucking work. But for you to actually be like, why do I like this? We used to have to like explain that shit.
Yes.
Right?
You're fired up. I know.
We got Gabe fired up.
You are cutting off a piece of critical thinking,
right,
to be like I send you a video and you just laugh emoji.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And like, so what did you think of that? So just like that leads directly back to what we're talking about, to be like, hey, we aren't invested into relationships because it doesn't take that high level of an initial investment.
And you know what? I would also say that we're, as young people, children, although we're not taught and practiced to value interpersonal communication and relationships in a way that's not relative to some product, thing, or otherwise. If I'm taught as a young person, say, hey, you know what? This is your friend. And you know what? Your friend in the playground said something mean to you. How do we address that? How do you understand what's their reality? We don't do anything like that in any version. We just assume that, you're going to clap back, you're going to hit back, or whatever. And sometimes it's legitimate. You need to defend yourself. But all I'm saying is that if we value interpersonal communication, our society is devaluing it a lot, I think, based on our interaction with tech. And so you have to do the work to actually, the skill. Oh, you said that stuff to me. How do I respond? But that's not there if I can swipe left or ghost or do whatever.
Yeah, but that boils down to like when Gabe said that there's options. I think there's an illusion of options, because there's not a lot of people, as both of you attest, who are able to communicate effectively when they're faced with a scenario real time. These blockers, these blinders, I'm just going to mute you, I'm going to block you, I'm going to ghost you. But then when it comes to face-to-face conversations, that's a different ball game. Like it takes a lot of balls to be able to look at somebody dead in the eye and say, I don't want to be with you anymore. It's easy to text that, it's easy to block that, but it's not easy to communicate that. But then if the feeling of, I'll just get on the app and swipe away, there's options, but what quality are you getting? It's like buying fast food and saying, yeah, I filled my hunger, but did you really win at the end of the day?
And also the opposite of that, I think, like, I'm a person of love and light. You say it's easier to be like, hey, whatever. On the opposite end of the spectrum, technology has also made it harder to like to transmit love. I think like it's easier to text love you or send like a heart emoji. Like look your best friend in the eye and be like, I love you, bro. How hard is that?
It shouldn't be that hard, but I think going back to early part of the conversation, I think when you are able to have the privilege to do the work, to show up authentically, in touch with yourself, you know who you are, I think those boundaries melt away a little bit more. And so on one side, you're like, okay, you're not meeting my criteria. Gabe says it in a more like, this is succinct. But I don't think Gabe shows up and says, dude's like, hey man, that's not good. Gabe's like, you're out, you're done. Right? I don't think there's more nuance to it. I think someone like Gabe would be like, okay, we've talked, we've experienced each other. I've said some things to you. I've tried. And I think I've reached the point where I now have to make the decision to say, you know what, I think we're done. I don't think it's just quick, cut, and dry. So
it's a sequential,
yes,
like actions. Like they built up to the point where I did an analysis and I came up with the report and I said, The findings of this report, unfortunately, say you're not the one.
Yes, it's we are not to be
Page
more. So
3 of it's you went over budget on this one. I'm
Yes.
sorry,
But
but
I'm gonna leave some concluding thoughts here because I only got a couple minutes left. Because I just want to leave. I think I'd be remiss to not drop something from my hero in any conversation. So, like in the words of Kobe Bryant, I think everyone is competitive when things are going well.
Mhm.
A true competitive person finds it within himself to pull himself out when you're down 15, you're down 20. That's when the true competitive people show up. And I think for the sake of this conversation, I would say like true vulnerability and true awareness and true mindfulness. What do you do when shit hits the fan? If you're having a great day, your bus arrives early, you get to work, so your favorite coworker bought you a coffee, of course you're going to be happy. When all that stuff doesn't happen, how do you react? That's my mentality.
I love that because I'll just quickly jump on that. For my students, I do something, a project. I call it a resilience project. Basically, I say, here's the project. I'm going to show up. I'm going to give it to you thing, and boom, and you're going to hand it in 2 weeks. And what I'm not going to do is mark it and go over it step by step. I'm going to ask you, how did you get up? When you were sad, when you were depressed, when something happened to your pet, when you had to look after your mom, when something strange happened, how did you deal? And so that's what I want you to describe, not the work. The work is going to be there, but your life is never going to stop because work is happening. So what I like that is that how do we use a strength-based approach to identify resiliency? What did I do when I was at the bottom? How did I get up? How did I show up? Basically.
hey man, I think we need part 2.
Yeah, man.
'Cause I'm not done. I'm not done.
We can do a home and away. We'll have Greg on. We'll have Greg on the OG podcast. I think that would be.
I don't know if he will he want the Chinatown trip. You think he's down for buns and shuai and shrimp? What do you think?
Hey, if he's not, then
we're done. Boundary crossed.
Yeah, no boundaries. You're out.
I did an analysis, and the report says you do not qualify for this criteria.
Exactly. That part, man. That part. Hey, that was fun, boy.
I would love to have you guys again. I think I still have a lot more. You guys have a lot more insight. But due to the constraint of time, me, Gabe, and you as well have other obligations. I would like to end the episode with just one word answer to what you summon your life to. I think we didn't really dive as deep as I wanted to, but that's okay. That's why there's next time. So Orrett, if you don't mind sharing, it all boils down to
growth. Need to continue to grow, and that's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be painful at times, but growth is not born of comfort. It's born of discomfort and challenging yourself. So for me, right now, it's growth.
And let's continue growing the OG podcast, Orrett. Plug that stuff. Continue publishing.
Where can people find the OG podcast?
Wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, everywhere. So if you got a Apple phone, great. If you got a Android phone, Amazon, whatever, it's all out there. Just you get it. And actually, it's OG podcast with a white background because there's some dudes who are claiming to be the OGs, but they're not. It's us, right? Okay, so OG podcast.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys for coming through. Thanks, Gabe, for doing the intro. Orrett, thank you for dropping so many gems. Thank you for being such a refreshing voice, a very good pinnacle to the Black community. I respect your mind. I respect your outlook on life.
Appreciate you.
I would love to do this again where we can dive deeper into more of it, like your personal angle and just kind of like the growth that happens from today to the next version. Right. And with that, I'm gonna say we out.
Thanks,
Peace, guys.